managed to get on the network. Find the password for right over here. Take a moment to thank our sponsors. We will see here. Dora, who was kind enough to help us. So, a little bit about ChiPy. We're a Python-focused community. Been around since 2003. Find names of our board members here. We keep one up. Joe and well, a few others who are unfortunately not here tonight. We've got a few other groups that meet pretty regularly. Totally, the Algo Sig is quite regular, as often as this meeting itself. So I believe that'll be the first Thursday of every month. So you can find us on Slack. We've got a little bit of a problem inviting people, but if you approach any of the board members, like just introduce, we're happy to send you an invite to that Slack tonight. Tonight, we present the Ultimate Language Shootout. The idea of this is we all probably use Python, either in time or at work, but there's a lot of other languages that exist, and they all, I believe, have something to teach us as programmers. So tonight, we have these presenters. Unfortunately, I don't see at least a few of them.
Jordan is going to be playing the role of Adrian tonight. Adrian, unfortunately, is ill.
Oh.
So I'm going to do the predecessor to Russ, which is Ada. So
Yeah.
And also, given that it is December and we are still in a pandemic and people do get sick, if anyone else would like to jump in and give a 5-minute talk about a language that is not Python, you're welcome to. We have as prizes, I believe, a gift certificate and Circuit Playground Express. This is slides are not necessarily a requirement for presentation.
So, first, you volunteer.
I stop presenting.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Hello. Hi. Can everyone hear me? So I'm going to cover our anything from a statistics or data analysis background. Maybe familiar with the debate, should I learn R, should I learn Python? And I'm going to give a quick summary of why you might consider R. This is a Python user group. They're actually about the same age. R was built specifically for statistical computing, which explains why it has a tenth of the libraries that Python does. I mean, Python is built for everything. So there are 137,000 libraries, but they're not all for statistical computing. And some of them might not be quite as developed or quite as applicable as the R libraries for statistics specifically. You could do anything from web dev to microcontrollers. R is often used by people who are scientists, people who are in finance, who aren't necessarily programmers. It is considered to be a great beginner language, similar to Python, but for different reasons. You can get started if you have a big data set, a big spreadsheet you want to import. You get started right away and make some really beautiful graphs. You can actually do it on any kind of computer. They're both free. So a couple syntax things. One reason I didn't really like Python at first was because I really hated all the tabbing. Did not like the white space sensitivity until I started using Visual Studio Code, which would do the lines, and I started writing better code, so there wasn't as much. In R, you can use curly braces, which I thought was easier for my brain to kind of lump code together. There are two ways that R has been incredibly successful at least two. One is the data frame object. It's kind of like a table. So if we talk about SQL later, it's working with data in that same way. So it makes aggregations easier without looping. If you can do slicing without looping. It was so successful that Python borrowed it via Pandas. And then here is the tidyverse, which I happen to like a lot. A lot of people happen to like it a lot. Like there's almost a cult around Hallelujah. But it's just a way of a framework. It's a way that you can use a bunch of libraries together without having to adopt different syntax every time. You can kind of get the same experience with scikit-learn in a way for machine learning, but there actually is a reason that the tidyverse hasn't been fully ported on Python, and that is that critics have said that the tidyverse isn't quite translatable to other programming languages. So it's actually just it's a way of looking at data. It's great for beginners. It's great to do a lot of stuff really fast, but it's not going to help you learn other languages. It's not going to help you do other things in programming. One other thing that I really want to highlight about R is you can make amazing charts with relatively few lines of code. I'm just going to show you a few of them. This is called a circular bar plot. This is the ggplot 2 if you want to see the code for it. It's on R graph gallery. It's just like easy to do something kind of involved like this. You can even do this in Tableau very easily. This is a bridge line, also called a joy division graph. This personally is like not my graph, but I did use this exact style at work at Fresco Labs. I'm a data engineer currently, but previously was a data analyst, and I was asked to look at our strains. So if you're not familiar with Fresco Labs, it's a Kansas company. We wanted to know which strains were consistently giving us the most THC out of our plants. And so we don't just want the plants that are the highest potency, which is what all our customers are asking for. We want the plants that are going to give us consistent high results so that we can continue to be reliable. And so this chart was easy to understand. One final example, hexagon chloroplast, also just a hexagon. Yep.
Oh, 1 minute. Yep.
Hexagon map. This is just another cool visualization. Really not hard to do in R. So let's just go back to talk about popularity. This is a little bit of a popularity contest. Yes, R is not even in the top 10, but you know what? It's actually not going away anytime soon. Again, like I said, if you're in healthcare, if you're in research, if you're in finance, if you're in academia, for sure, there is a really good chance that your coworkers are using it, and if your coworkers are using it, you are likely using it. It's probably making your life easier if you're doing statistics. Of course, Python remains at the top. Another interesting thing about this
10 seconds.
C and C++ are sneaking in there, and they're actually older than both of these languages. I know all of you are really excited to see Visual Basic in the top 10 free language.
Time.
Okay, last question. Does anybody know what a pirate's favorite programming language is? Well, actually, it'd be the C. Right.
Or just for the other speakers, we're doing timing over here, so you'll raise your hand. 1 minute left. Just so. Sorry, we should have said that. I should have said that before. Let's see. Who wants to go next? I don't see some of our other speakers here. I don't see Phil, or I don't see.
That's it. You're a winner.
Oh,
Heather did go downstairs.
Oh, okay.
So I think she received a call.
we're grabbing some more. Who wants to go next?
Maybe we should just
I don't see it.
a little bit.
We just wait a few minutes. Or wait.
I mean, I can go, I guess.
Another batch of people popping.
Yeah. Josh.
Oh, that's right. Heather's.
Hey, we have another speaker.
Yay.
All right.
Bell.
get you a beer, Phil?
I'll fill in the dead air by waving toys around again.
Oh.
Right.
What? You're speaking. Yes, all right, never mind. Speaking.
Oh, now?
If you wish to.
I think he has
Sure,
time to have a beer
so
first.
we have a laptop with open office on it?
Oh, he's getting set up. We got FPGAs on USB thing. You know what that means? I'll give you one. So in my 2 or 3 talks, couple months.
I got you.
I got a USB.
I got things.
I got you.
I'm over here. If you want to know what this is, look at FOMU, FOMU.item, like I'm fun. You look interesting.
Yeah, okay, I will.
So, I'm just gonna read this hand.
Oh. Just some time.
Yes, and all this crap counts against your talk, so. You're doomed. Space.
Should have another dish to this. Like
Thumbs
that.
up.
What do you think?
Sure.
You want, huh? Technology brand, Joe.
Everything's supposed to be easier.
Look how easy it was to get a camera going.
Great.
I'll give you some more details on that.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, you can start. I'm presenting tonight on Crayon, which is a language which creates pictures. Say you have a new job, you're a programmer, you started an ad agency, and the boss says, artists need guidance when they want to do an illustration. Write me a program, takes a text description of what they want to illustrate, and then gives them some sample pictures. We want you to use common tropes, allow for progressive refinement, like say, oh, I want a side view of that. So let's talk about why I consider this a language. Standard language, you take text, you process it. The output from that process, you stick some input into it, and some output the output processes the input, and you get a result. That's a language, computer language. So Crayon is a website that generates images, came from the Google Cloud team. It looks like this. It has a text box where you type in what you want to see. So I said, give me a woman with a glass of lemonade. Give me a handsome man putting an online order. Give me a side view of that handsome man placing an online order. And I'm going to draw it now. So just give me a sketch of the online man, of the handsome man placing an online order. And it gives me something sort of looks like a sketch. I said, give me a programmer at work. And then I said, give me a programmer at work in Van Gogh's style. Now, it really isn't Van Gogh's style, but it's somewhat close. There's other similar programs. There's one called Stable Diffusion. I asked it for a programmer at work. You'll notice the internet, these are all based on images scraped from the web. And you'll notice that we have a certain similarities in them. They're all white males. Almost all of them have beards. So Jordan is our classic programmer.
Also, yeah.
But if you start looking at these closely, they're a little weird. You see, this guy has two microphones, one of which is floating in the air. This guy, I'm not sure exactly what his headset looks like, and his fingers are really weird. This guy has a stunted arm, and I don't know what those shapes are above him, but maybe that's the thought cloud of a programmer at work. And then this image, I think it's supposed to say programmer, and it's at work. But why am I talking about this? I think it's the future of programming, or at least one of the futures. Currently, there are a couple neural networks which are doing stuff like this for programming. They come as a plug-in for popular editors. You write a doc string, and the AI assistant writes the function that accomplishes what you said in the doc string. We have examples of GitHub Copilot and AWS Code Whisperer. GitHub Copilot, Codepilot, this is trained on the open source repositories in GitHub and has learned coding from these examples. Currently, you need to pay for a subscription. AWS Code Whisperer was announced just last week. It says lots of great things, presents you with syntactically correct recommendations, synthesized based on what you've already written. We have some reviews of Codepilot already. They say it works surprisingly well if you're doing something common. Like this function takes a list and pulls out everything that looks like such and such. And we'll do that for you. But code needs to be carefully read after generation, and I don't really like reading other people's code. But sum up, you can ask for nonsense, and you'll get back nonsense. So I asked for a horse on a pogo stick jumping a fence. And Fran gave me this, and this, and this. And this which came closest to a horse with a pogo stick jumping a fence. But that's it. Enough horsing around. And there's all the options.
All right.
Want your laptop back?
Who's next?
I can go next. Someone has to volunteer to be me and go down and let people in if front desk calls.
To be you.
All right.
It's coming. That's my opinion. I think our code that's going to be generated today is going to look a lot like a horse jumping on a stick. But eventually we'll get something like describe what you want.
You can get up here and get over. It brings inference to the
Maybe I'll do like just off the cuff talk. I found a learn Lua in 15 minutes as a visual aid. I can steal.
You could do it. I mean, you could make it. Just show the code that you wrote for the.
For the ingress, I don't want to show. I don't want to. It's like. I mean, I wouldn't.
Off the cuff, huh?
I found the Ada library that I wrote 9 years ago. And I'm going to show it. So that's one I just used Ada.
Who's our next speaker? Yeah. This is technology.
Yeah, and we don't need it on long.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's more like
last speaker walked in here. Right.
That's longer than
Oh, thank you.
Wait, where's the? Here it is. I'm just gonna put it here. Okay, good.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know.
Always fun when you have 4 Google accounts that you're logged into various places. And you have to switch back and forth between them to get to the content.
I feel like something's stuck in my knee. So how are you gonna measure other people? No, like true.
All right. So I am that person who's going to talk about SQL at the Ultimate Language Shootout. There's some history to this. Years ago, I got up to speak, and I was the first person up, and right before that, my friend Theo stood there and said, "Man, since you're scared from that about SQL, I just know it." And I was like, "Oh, really? You said that?" And I pulled up my slide. Oh. But now I just have to talk about SQL more. SQL, of course, is structured query language, based on set theory. It's been around for a long time. Language came about in 1970. First standard was published in 1986, and it's had a lot of new stuff added since then. I think the latest update was 2021, but now it supports things like temporal tables and JSON, and the idea of having an entire time series of the evolution of something, which is what a temporal table is kind of cool to me. I don't know about the rest of you, but like Python, everything you encounter in SQL is an object, albeit a database object. So be that a user, a table, permissions, stored code like triggers, functions, procedures, etc. There's a lot of back and forth about the name of this language. It was originally called SQL, spelled S-E-Q-E-L, or S-E-Q-U-E-L. There was already a language called SQL at that time. There was ChiPy. The thing they used for querying database was lost and had to give up its vowels, and now it has 3 letters. But it was called SQL, and that's how I'm going to say it. Anyway, so let's go into why it's cool. Set theory is cool. You basically define a set of criteria, and everything that matches that is part of your results. There's no need to lose, like ever. Who needs lose? Does anyone actually like iterating? You of course have atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability, all these things commonly known as ACID, which basically say that there are rules that whatever you do, querying, updates, whatever, have to obey certain rules, and your data has to remain consistent. Unlike Python, SQL has no maximum recursion, at least as far as the standard. So, in theory, you run a query, you start it, it could run forever. It's allowed to. Postgres, Microsoft SQL, MySQL, I don't know about MySQL, but all of these DBMSs might have other opinions about that. You should look at where you're running your query and check. That said, recursion is probably the coolest thing about SQL. Does anyone know what this is doing? That too. But specifically, this is a common table expression, a recursive one. Your with statement says you're defining a variable. Your first variable is a select query, this table. You're now unioning it with a join against itself recursively, so that this is the first set where there's no manager IDs. The next set, the subordinates of that person. Then you get the next set, the subordinates of those people. This query will traverse an entire tree. Once it's defined all of the people that belong in this query set, it's going to select all from those rows, subordinates. This is what's called a common table expression. This is a part of the ANSI standards to write a recursive query. This is pretty much one of the coolest things I've ever encountered in SQL because you can write a query to define an entire tree. In this case, this level field will give you the depth as far as where in that tree this record lives. So there's that. But honestly, let's focus on what we all want to know about. Bobby Tables loves SQL injection. Don't you love SQL injection? If we didn't have SQL, we wouldn't have SQL injection. That's my talk.
Speaking of recursion.
Let's stop recurring. All right.
How does one present?
Oh, I need to invite you. Come up here.
Currently, we have nothing but Python programming.
What's your?
I didn't expect that.
I've seen it in production code. I think they specify it down.
Yeah.
For discovery education, we have a lot of assets. It's very important people to know where those assets are used. That's code, categories, so we want to know how we want to figure that out.
But if we wanted to like do like trace that and lower class. Yeah, I did not. No.
Now you know.
Yeah. All right. Very admin. Yes. You don't want to.
Is anybody successfully connected to that?
Yes. We'll multiply them.
I tried.
Well, proofreaded in my attempt. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm just gonna have to. Mine.
There's no spaces. No, there's one.
Hopefully, copy it, but
Prizes.
I'm glad I moved on. Because I don't want candy. I'm glad I moved on because I don't want candy. Got candy all year.
So soak up some dead air in here. You got one of these.
I did, yeah.
You got a little piece of hardware. And one of its purposes in life is a platform of open source software. Hardware. It's really everybody's done it. And let these folks figure out what they're doing. So FPGA is a field programmable gateway. Say it is a something you can program, stretch. It is a little black IC chip that can be another black IC chip. These are integrated circuits. Manufacturers in Taiwan, TSMC, Taiwan.
Oh, yeah.
Semiconductor manufacturing company. They make IC chips. Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Back to the training.
All right, I came super prepared. So I'm going to talk about G code, and it is my first computer language that I learned. You can call it computer language. It is the language that you use to make CNC machines go, and it's a purely functional language. So basically, it always goes function, and then you give it quarks. They may be so like you'll have like a G1, which is move. And then you can give it some X and a number, or Y and a number, or any other any other letter that they choose. You would think that G code is a standard because all of them say we use G code, but nothing could be further from the truth. Every different company and everything, they all have different variations on how they choose to interpret the language for themselves. So I guess to call it a language is a bit of a stretch. I believe that the way that it came about probably is a long time ago, all the machines were run on paper. So you had strips of paper with the holes in it, and the machine would read the holes and make the machine go. And then I imagine someday someone went, hey, we can take this piece of paper and put it inside of a computer. And they said, that's a great idea, let's do that. And no one's ever changed it since. So just like SQL, there are no loops. There are no, there's not a lot of niceties in anything. Unfortunately, this language is still taught in colleges and schools and everything everywhere because nobody can seem to come up with anything better. Like I said, there are no loops, but there is goto. We all love goto, don't we? You can make loops. You can crash your machine as well.
Sounds like infinite recursion.
Yes. Until your part goes flying
Yeah.
off across the room.
So would decode a crash is more literal, right?
Yeah. It is. Yes, there are no brakes or anything on any machines. I built a bunch of CNC machines. I remember talking to somebody and they're like, well, how do you make sure that it doesn't crash? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's nothing that stops you from doing anything.
The code.
Yeah.
So what the plexiglass is for.
I would not trust the plexiglass. Just say. What else is there?
Anyway, I'd like to point out, I told Andrew he was talking about this as he was driving in. We needed more speakers. So.
Yeah, like I said, I came super prepared.
What is CNC?
I'm sorry?
What is CNC?
Computer numeric control. So if you are going to be carving a block of metal or plastic or something, it will say, like you have a, like I said, function. So G1, and you say G1, X1 with the head and move it 1 unit, millimeter, inch in the positive direction, whatever that means as far as the machine goes.
I mean,
Kind of similar to
expensive
Lodo.
tool into your steel block.
I'm not familiar with what other, yes.
Yeah, 3D logo pretty much. I think, right? So,
But pretty much like every machine sort of. So laser cutters, vinyl cutters, CNC machines, 3D printers, it's any kind of those machines that like move the head around in some kind of a vectorized format. It's probably got some kind of variation of G code running underneath it. I guess there are kind of nice things like you can put into the machine, like stop here or optional stops that you can kind of put breakpoints in your program if you'd like. Is there anything else? Yeah, I think that's about what covers it. Nobody ever really writes G code unless they're in college. Otherwise, you have other programs that will write G code for you. It's writing G code is something stupid, which I guess is why they teach it in college. So.
Is there a type of library that uses G code?
There are some. Unfortunately, I've written a bunch of them. So what is it that you want to do? Is that like 5 minutes?
We wrap up on that.
can you do open G code? Can you do G code from OpenSCAD? Like do like path finding, and then is there open source tools for that?
There are a bunch of open source tool sets. If you're going to do something like that, you probably export a solid file into some other thing that will read that solid file.
Great.
Any other volunteers?
Sorry.
I think
I'm not. Okay.
Talk to us.
Yeah. Hello again.
I didn't want to be and Jim. You got a good month?
So, anybody's familiar with portal module in Python? That's what gives you an API where your command functions you call to say, turn the pen on, go forward, turn right, go forward some more, back.
Okay, so I'm giving a talk on the original person who's going to give a talk on Rust. So Ada is the original Rust. So, and basically, where Ada came from is this. This is like, I don't know, early 80s. The Department of Defense got weirded out because they realized that people were trying to write, like, rocket avionics software in Fortran. And they decided that, that's probably not a good idea. So they decided to design a language where, like, it was really a language for everything that Department of Defense. They wanted to replace literally everything, right? But their focus was on high integrity software for things that flies in the air, pretty much. And what they decided is they really messed everything up with football because they thought, well, let's have a big committee. The big committee will design a language, and then we're having an awesome language because you get all the insights. It's the best way to design language. That didn't work out really well with COBOL, so what they decided to do was have a big committee and produce a document that says everything we want to have in a language. We're not going to design the language, we're just going to, describe what we like. So they came up with a series of documents actually, and I believe they're called like the Wood Man, the Aluminum Man. There was like a whole series of them, and it culminated in this document called Steel Man, right? And so the Steel Man, they actually shopped it around to all the computer scientists in the world. It was a huge, everybody give, complaints, benefits, whatever, right? And so they came up with, the specification for what a language should be. And you can see, I don't need to go into this too much. But then they shopped this around and they said, okay, here's the requirements. Design a language for us. And it was an open, competition. Everybody who wanted to design a language could, as long as it fulfilled domain requirements, submit it for review. And the guy who won it was this guy called ChiPy. He's in France actually, so it was outsourced to France. And he designed a language called Ada. Ada was named after Ada King, who.
Lovelace.
Well, okay, so this is the hill that I'm going to die on. Right?
All right.
Her main name was Ada Byron. Her last name after she was married was Ada King. Lovelace was her title, not her last name. Okay. She's Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. Okay. So, there you go.
You don't need to die.
Right. Yeah. So that's the story. The name's after her. But yeah. So let me see. So what are the cool things about Ada? Well, it's compared to Python, it's extremely strongly typed. In fact, it's so strongly typed that they said they kind of ran out of things they could do with types, and they've been in a whole new abstraction for specifying inputs and outputs called design by context, which I'll show you guys in a second. And it was like, at some point you get to the point where you can't specify things any further with types. So that's pretty cool. But before I get there, I kind of want to talk about the standard. So like I said, there was the Steelman, and then that produced the standard Ada 83. They've been updating it ever since. Now they have Ada 2012 is the most recent one. The coolest thing about this is, and this is the actual language standard. This is actually used, and if you go on forums that talk about Ada, they'll reference chapter and verse of this standard, because people like the standard is well written enough and it's followed enough that people use this as their documentation for the language, right? There's also a cool rationale that gets published every time they make an update, where people just go in and explain exactly how and why the groups made the decisions when they were making the specification. It's really a level of sort of organization that you really don't see in any other kind of language development operation. So, okay, yeah, so Spark. Right, so I mentioned, actually I should show you guys the data code first. How much time do I have?
20 seconds.
Okay. Actually, there's one really cool thing, I think. So, here's some data code. This is a library I wrote 9 years ago, and so this thing is parsing. Email header lines, and you can see the E, B, and F here. This is the B and F, right? And it's 20 lines of B and F. It's about 500 lines of data for a recursive distant parser for that. So people say Ada is verbose. Well, maybe it is, but there's a lot of comments and new lines and whatnot here. It's I think if you were to do the same thing in Python, maybe it'd probably still be 300 lines of code or so, right? To do a recursive distant parser for 20 lines of B and F, that's not trivial. So that gives you a sense of verbosity. But you can see, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh yeah, the thing I wanted to show you guys. Okay, Ravenscar protocol. So there's this concept called hard real time, right? And so hard real time means suppose you're designing an orbital rendezvous, right? Well, if you're designing a website, you're 200 milliseconds late. Well, the user's kind of pissed off, right? But if you're designing an orbital rendezvous and you're 200 milliseconds late, you have a custom system, right? So they came out with this system where they're we want to make it easy to write hard real-time applications, because this is something you do in Ada, right? And they said, let's just disable everything that would blow your foot off if you try to write a hard real-time system in Ada. And this is the Ravenscar protocol, what they call it, because they run Ravenscar Scotland when they were developing the standard. And you can see pretty much this is everything in Ada that doesn't work if you're doing hard real-time programming. So I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's fine.
No.
Okay.
Well, they got me hurt from neighbors.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's in one interruption.
Reference, the reason why we're timing is to try and give you an equal judging platform. It's, you got prize stuff. All right, anybody else?
Well, so I might have a Lua talk I could do real quick,
Sure.
but it's good. But I need,
You wanna use my laptop?
yeah, if you don't mind. And can I send you a?
The board member, we're gonna exempt you from the winning.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not gonna win because this is like going right off the like. Or when, let's see. I'm gonna send you something here on Slack.
I'm not sending it Slack. I'm only on Slack.
Oh, where should I? How should I send it?
Or email me. Heather period white at Zora.com.
Okay.
While we're waiting, everybody please keep the beer still.
All right.
I don't see it. Oh, there it is.
I just stole that one.
Alright, so I'm gonna. Oh.
I don't know what he was using.
We have a situation.
No more beer.
Joe,
Yeah, we're out.
the camera? How do you?
Fix that.
I can't see it on the computer.
Yeah, it says learn in 50 minutes, right?
I don't see it on. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about Lua, and just so to level set here a little bit, I'm not an expert at Lua. In fact, I don't know the history of Lua. I don't know much about Lua, but I wanted to talk about it because
Maybe that's all I need.
there's cool things you can do with it. And I'll talk a little bit about that situation. Very Python-like, and in the interest of this, I stole someone's website, so it's not mine. It's TylerNeon.com, to give that person credit. But I thought it was a good little showcase of how the syntax looks. You can use comments with dashes, of course, basic types and strings, loops. It's very reminiscent of Python in a lot of senses, and very simple. Yeah, so that functions and various things. One thing that I find, one thing that Lua is commonplace in is like server integrations. For example, Nginx, the web server. Let's say Nginx is a very powerful web server, unless you has a lot of stuff built into it, but it doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to do your own things with it. It's a sequence program, so it's just kind of a binary. But what it does offer is it offers integration with Lua, and basically runs like a very little like micro Lua interpreter. So you can hook into, you can write a little simple Lua code and embed it in your Nginx web server and do some fancy stuff with requests and responses as it goes through. And I think the reason why Lua was chosen then is it's a very lightweight language. It doesn't have a huge like standard library. And in fact, in a lot of these web services and such, they'll like strip out some components of Lua just to make it run faster. And more like so one thing that I've been using it for a similar service layer called Istio. Istio is like they call it service management. It lets you basically encrypts traffic between different web services, typically in a Kubernetes cluster, but it could be between generic web services. So, but what it lets you do is intercept traffic, and it goes as it goes out of a web service or a user service, and establish that connection between the source and destination with mutual TLS. So what you could do with Lua is you can intercept a request as it leaves your web or as it receives your client workload. You can intercept it and do whatever you want with it. So you could add headers. You could add you could add headers. You could do you could change it from HTTP to HTTPS or various little hacks to it. So one of the things that I've been working on lately, which made me kind of just think I could talk about it for a little bit, is we want to authenticate with a CloudFront service, Amazon CloudFront, and you do that by creating a cookie. Or like you can create a signed cookie that can then be attached to your request, and that can be authenticated with Amazon CloudFront. So you can download or upload. CloudFront is just a CDN. You can download and upload files to CloudFront. So what you do is say like any request that leaves this this client, as it goes through Istio on the way out, you can run some Lua code to talk to another, like request a cookie from another service, like a Python-based service in this case. It gets that cookie back, then the Lua code can attach that cookie to your outgoing request, and then it will authenticate automatically to Amazon CloudFront. That means like the Lua code does all the heavy lifting and the workload inside of the service or the client doesn't have to know anything about the cookie or authenticating at all. You're just making the request, authenticates it, and then you can download the CloudFront. That's all possible through Lua and Istio. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool thing that Lua enables. And that's one of the places you'll find Lua in the wild, in those like service level stuff. So that's my impromptu talk.
Is it relatively new?
Lua, I don't think so. I think it's been a long time.
At least 10 years.
Yeah,
Longer.
Wargaming uses it to script their game clients.
WoW uses it as well.
I think a lot of
Gaming.
game engines use it.
If you ever played with any of the LucasArts adventures back in the 80s or 90s, you've heard of Scum or Scum VM.
Yeah.
The environment that comes out of that. I believe Crash Bandicoot as well. A lot of the development tools used to build that were built to Lua.
Like Monkey Island is a class 6 Scumby game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, did we have any other takers for language shootout?
You can see it's very impromptu if you want. It can be very impromptu if you want to be.
Okay, that sounds like a no.
Yeah, I know. So it's time for me to do my job.
Yeah.
You could have given us all 10 minutes.
I'm gonna shut my laptop. Battery.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, maybe you should do 10 minutes.
Well, then I think it's time to start judging and figure out who's going to win these prizes.
So we have a number of prizes, and should we just do like whoever wins will get their choice of whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. First choice. First winner is
Oh,
first
I
choice.
need to go grab our prize. I'll do that.
Yeah.
You take these two?
Yeah, I'll speak this that way.
There's 5. I think there's more than 5 speakers.
Was there 5 speakers?
I don't know.
Oh, here, well, I'll give them at the end.
Choose on making it down here on a nice cold December night, y'all.
Pretty warm this winter, actually.
I know, right?
40s, you know, 40s for a while.
Warming's a thing.
So Heather's, why don't we take a few minutes break and, right? Heather's getting the prize or something, or she letting people in?
Talk amongst yourself.
We do.
Exactly.
A little bit.
I'd say sorry.
Thanks for.
Was it made in like Hawaii?
the people who were here last month, I get to talk about the Mo robot. I volunteered for a group of high school robotics kids, and kids and I put this together, and we're using this Mo robot. Basically, short story, it's a robot programmed in Python. We're trying to do FIRST robotics over Python, and Mo's there to help us with that. And we're trying to use this to make an educational platform and to win our way back to Texas again, which is where the championships are. So this is about 2 minutes, and we're kind of ridiculous, so everything should be silly and fun. Leave it out.
What's happening?
The most magnificent mustache machine. We are the mechanical mustaches, first robotics team 8122. Programming can seem hard, and we ask ourselves how many first robotics teams were not started because the teacher or coach didn't think they could program. So, we made them. Our goal is to make programming for first robotics easier. Mo has 2 built-in motors and wheels and has 5-pixel RGB display. Mo comes with a 128 by 64 LCD to display internal states, useful information, and other information as well. Practice with Mo and then use the code in a real FRC competition using the Mo statute framework. Mo is programmed with Python. Mo is easy enough for beginners and feature rich enough to entertain even the most experienced programmers. Get started in minutes with Mo's web pages. Just plug him in and use his built-in Wi-Fi to navigate his own website. But no apps to download, no programs to install, just start playing by using our many programming examples. Edit code directly in our online code editor. Learn quickly with Mo's REPL. Type the code and see it run immediately. See Mo's internals in real time with Mo's dashboard, where internal states are automatically populated. Mo is open source. Find all his source files and programs on the Mechanical Mustaches GitHub page. Run scripts with Mo autonomous mode. Insert functions the same way you use them anywhere else. And Mo takes care of the rest. Give Mo more functionality with expansion boards, add buttons, knobs, servos, or even mustache faces. Add a line problem sensor and learn about closed-loop controls. Control Mo remotely. With his friend Joe the Joypad, program custom controls and start automating routines with Mo and Jerry, and drive Mo around like a real robot. Help us reach our goal of bringing first-based learning to the classrooms by supporting us on Kickstarter.
Yeah. We're doing that. We're always looking for sponsors as well. So if anybody is interested, got some business cards up here.
So will the commercial version be called Mo Money?
Well, with your help.
So are you using Rust?
No. Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
That thing's running flash
Yeah.
on the microcontroller, right?
Yeah.
And industry, right? Boring.
That little robot.
Versus C#
Wait,
web server.
So Joe and I work on a data science.
So it's running Pico Web, and Pico Web has a Flask-like templating engine
Okay.
built inside of it.
And
So you got basic IO kind of just like running the loop, and then if Pico Web gets a request and the request points at the template, it will automatically generate some HTML from the template and fire it off through its socket.
All right, cool.
139 to start. So reasonable. Anyways.
So usually in the past with a larger attendance, which I can totally understand we not necessarily having, we've done this by applause, but the route is cool. We're gonna do the judging by hand raised. That's all right.
No, I think we should do applause.
Yeah.
Two people should commiserate about who has the loudest applause.
Well, let you all join. Back row. Yeah. Back row driving. So, let's see.
So
First presenter was Natasha with R.
why don't have everyone stand up
Yeah.
who are presented?
Just as a reminder, our presenters were Natasha, Bill, back here again. Heather with Sequel. Jordan with Lua. Joe, or sorry,
Don't forget
Joe
Bill.
with Lua.
You get
Joe with
second.
Ada. That's what I get with 2J. And Adam, or Andrew, sorry.
I don't have any audience
With
left.
G code.
Yeah, we're all.
Yeah, how many times can everyone vote?
We're just gonna
All
clap.
board members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is why the applause thing.
We're gonna clap. I'm gonna clap a little bit for the people I liked a little, and a lot.
So let's see, hold my hand over everybody's head. Applaud when you,
We could do a runoff election if,
yeah. We can have applaud.
I don't like
See. So, hearing about the same level, I don't know about you. What do you say? Oh, okay.
Alright, so
I believe we have 4 winners.
let's narrow it down. We can narrow it down a little bit here.
All right, so we do need to.
Well, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a prize.
Why don't we divide it into 2 groups? And people say, clap more if they're in, when you judge one group versus another group. And then the winning group will be divided again.
You're seeking binary
Oh.
search. So again, I'm gonna go with hands raised. Executive decision.
How many can we vote for?
2 votes.
Okay.
Honor system. Anybody got any complaints? All right, good. So for Jordan with Lua.
Not
So I have 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10.
All right, I got 9, 10, 10, and 11. 11, okay. Natasha with R.
I put both my votes in for that. I can vote twice.
There we go. Okay, I got 5, 6. Yeah, keep your hands up, please. Don't mess around.
Touchdown.
14. I have 14, possibly 15 for Natasha. And for Phil with the AI generated images. Yeah.
I've already used my vote,
I think it's fairly clear. I believe we have,
We can't let you win 2 times in a row.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, Phil won last time with Game of Life.
Oh, yeah.
And that was 2 years ago.
That was a long time
That was
ago.
the last time.
2 ultimate language shootouts.
So the prizes are the microbit from Ross.
The Circuit Playground Express, which is the small silver photo pack.
I actually do like want me to get back into
There you go.
And then Aaron donated a candy from Hannah's Pretzel,
Chocolates.
chocolate, and gift certificate from Hannah's Pretzel.
Yeah, $50. It's gift card.
And then the third runner-up could pick a.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then there's like chocolate policy groups. I believe we still have a prize left.
They gave me a hard time when I used the tokens, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, fine, Armando, I'll just give them good cards.
Yes.
I'll give it to them.
All right. There you go. And with that, I'm going to bring at least my portion of the proceedings to a close. Feel free to hang out.
So
And our host will ask us to leave when we do.
we need
Also-
to have more pizza. Please
Yes.
eat it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hang on for a bit.
I would say it was on.
Afterwards.
But that whole
There's
sort of-
Heather.
like, we need more space.
After party, we figure out on the fly.
And I think you need extra cards. Or number or something. I don't know.
You'll go to my-
Zealand Tavern is, let's see,
I give her one.
and
You gave
now.
Heather one? Did you give
I
Heather one?
never got
Ooh,
it.
what?
Heather?
Oh,
By the way.
All right.
I want you to close this out. Say thanks.
Thank you all. Until next time.
So.
Nice job.
Well, Chad.